Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and so it's now too late to get the sort of deal that Boris Johnson promised with the EU, at least to have it applied in time for the end of the transition period. Obviously, that doesn't mean talks are over or even pointless. We are going to need to get a deal. I mean, that is the bottom line. Whether it's an even thinner deal than now and build on it later, or a no deal now and return to it later. But the real talks right now are not taking place between the UK and the EU because the UK government still hasn't decided what it wants. The real talks, therefore, are taking place in Downing Street among senior Conservative ministers and advisors who are in two different camps, with some wanting a deal and some wanting no deal. But first of all, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So we're in very different territory now when it comes to talking about a Brexit deal, because what a Brexit deal now means is completely different to what it may have meant last week. We've got 6 weeks left until the end of the transition period. So why is it, for example, too late to get the sort of EU deal that had been promised, even if Boris Johnson just sort of climbs down on everything? There's two things essentially. First of all, the EU Council are meeting this Thursday. Now, for them to have given their approval, they'd have needed to be able to discuss the deal here and still need time to ratify it in their own parliaments. Secondly, the EU Parliament, which also have to ratify it, have a stated requirement of about 6 weeks in order to be able to translate the legal text, push them through committees, consider everything and then vote on it. Now, on the EU Parliament front, the vote was originally supposed to be December the 16th. Obviously, 6 weeks, you know, for translation committees, consideration, all that. I mean, we're past the point at which you could have made it for then, at the start of this month. That's why people originally had been saying, and I'd been echoing this, that really we need the deal by the end of October. However, I have seen reports that there may be the possibility of a special emergency sitting on December the 28th. But I'm a little bit wary of various reports. Now, that report, by the way, is valid, but I am wary because there's an awful lot of things flying around. For example, it's now been stated that whatever deal emerges has to be very limited in scope now. There's still a lot of talk about the fact that Boris Johnson has to come away with something. But he can't come away with the sort of deal that the EU and the UK were working together on, that was talked about in the withdrawal agreement. That's gone. That is gone. Not forever, but it's gone for this year. Now, the reason why we're going to have a much more limited deal, if we have any deal at all, is simple. There is now no way to get approval, ratification from EU member states. You know, not in time for the end of the year anyway. So that means that the only deal possible will be one that doesn't need member state approval. So not everything that needs approving in the EU has to be approved by member states. It depends on the political nature of it usually. So what we need is something that can be just agreed by the EU Commission and the EU Parliament. Now, I was seeing some outlets, particularly Sky News, trying to report that this has been done to save time. But like I've just said, the EU Parliament wants 6 weeks for translations, committees and you know, and everything else in the vote. So it's not like such a move actually buys them much time, if any. If any, because even to meet the 28th, you still need to agree that deal like now. Now, before I go over some of the revealing things that David Frost, who is the UK's chief negotiator, has been reportedly saying, it's also worth considering the facts of the matter with regards to Brexit deal with the EU, because we need to be really clear on this. There's no such thing as getting a deal this year, and that's that. There's also no such thing as getting no deal this year, and that's that. An awful lot of Brexiteers in particular talking about the fact, you know, if we can just get to the end of this year and we haven't got a deal, then that's it. That's it. Settled forever. No. Of course not. Whatever is agreed or not is going to have to be built upon over the next few years. That's all there is to it. If Boris Johnson finally makes up his mind, or, you know, his new puppet masters make it up for him, and he agrees to a deal, it'll be so thin, even thinner than what we were considering a thin deal last week. It'll be so thin that work will have to continue on it next year even to strengthen it. You can't even just revisit it in a few years' time. You know, perhaps if a thin deal is agreed, you could argue one political benefit would be that it'll take attention away from future talks, because we'll have the deal, he'll have delivered the deal that he said he was going to deliver, and future talks will just be considered to be boring technical details to be thrashed out, and maybe you could actually have more useful talks that can take place away from the popular limelight, you know. But similarly, if we don't agree a deal this year, and there's something I need to say about that right at the end of the video, which is my way of saying watch it till the end, we're still going to have to keep talking, because there's no way we can cope without one. Now, according to reports, David Frost has been telling the Prime Minister to expect a landing zone, as he calls it, next Tuesday. Now, I'm not exactly sure what he's realistically meant by that. I know what he means by landing zone, but next Tuesday, I mean, it wasn't a public statement, and of course no questions could be asked to clarify this. This is, you know, briefing. Next Tuesday would only leave 5 weeks before this supposed date of December the 28th for the EU Parliament to get what they want. So the EU Parliament are not going to get their 6 weeks if indeed they are still willing to ratify an agreement on the 28th of December if it's not agreed until next Tuesday. Now, the EU have said they are prepared to be a little bit creative in terms of their ratification process, not in terms of their protection of the single market. They're not going to compromise the integrity of the single market. But in terms of their ratification process, they are willing to be a bit flexible. Now, some have taken the comments to be preparing for sort of a blame game here, but not necessarily for a no-deal scenario. We've all been working this year on the principle that maybe Boris Johnson intends the no deal and just to blame the EU for those who expected a deal. But bear in mind that Boris Johnson will be upsetting a sizable chunk of his party regardless of the outcome here. The Brexit that was promised is quite impossible. That can't be said enough. So when the reality of Brexit is delivered, there are going to be some very unhappy customers. And if he doesn't get a deal, well, of course, he has to lay the blame elsewhere to avoid the anger of those who expected him to deliver the deal that not only did he publicly promise, that he said he'd already got the oven-ready deal. I mean, that's obvious. We were prepared for that. But also, if he does get a deal, well, he still has to lay the blame elsewhere to avoid the anger of those who expected him to deliver a no deal that he privately promised. Now, the report, which is in the Sun, said that Johnson would not back down on his red lines. But it also said that cabinet ministers were calling for him to do just that and agree a deal. Some cabinet ministers, not all. Now, the combination of those statements, if true, suggests at the very least that cabinet understands that there is no backing down from the EU. You know, if they want a deal, they understand that it is Johnson who has to do a bit of a climb down. Now, that's encouraging in a way, because it means that they're not as deluded as we may have feared. Of course, all of this is going off, as I say, off the record briefings reported in the Sun, so I don't want to lay too much validity on them. But it was full of interesting statements. Now, Gove apparently said that a no deal will lead to Scotland breaking away. That being said, if they were at all concerned about that, why did they let Boris Johnson call Scottish devolution a terrible mistake this week? Between Johnson saying that devolution in Scotland was a mistake and Gove saying that the Good Friday Agreement was a mistake, it's hard to imagine that senior Conservatives really care about the United Kingdom at all. But that is another issue. Another black mark that history will charge these arseholes with in the future. Worry about that later. But what's going on is the actual talks between the EU and the UK are, as they have been most of the year, fairly pointless beyond discussing technical details if political agreement was ever found. You know, what we're being told is that Michael Gove doesn't want to further strain the union, so he sort of wants a deal, so he says. Boris Johnson is paralysed by a need to satisfy everyone when that's impossible to do, and Rishi Sunak wants a deal as well. Now, the indecision within the UK government makes it impossible to discuss anything other than the technical details with the EU right now, because what we don't have is a political direction from the UK. And I can also imagine that pressure from backbenchers will be intense as well. You know, after getting rid of Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson needs to build bridges. He pissed off the anti-Cummings brigade by keeping him on against all reason. There's a lot of MPs needed him to get rid of... Well, they wanted him gone at the start of this year before even Durham They wanted him gone before then, but as soon as the Barnard Castle fiasco came out, they really wanted him gone. So Boris Johnson has pissed them off. The fact that he's now got rid of Cummings has maybe got a few more of them on side, but there's still a lot of them going, you've wreaked carnage here and now you act? Why didn't you do this 6 months ago? However, there were also those in the party who were fans of Dominic Cummings, the pro-Cummings brigade. Well, Boris Johnson's now pissed them off as well. You know, but almost every Conservative MP has a view on their preferred outcome for Brexit. Like I said, a lot of these tensions are simmering at the moment because Brexit is still in their sights. And if Johnson makes a definite decision, he'll have to enrage at least one faction within the party. Now, it may well be that he simply refuses to make any decision at all and allows the no-deal Brexit to just happen so that he can blame others. You know, the way he may see it as if he takes a positive step, whether it's to cancel the talks and say, right, that's it, no deal, or whether to keep going along with them in the hope that a deal will just emerge at some point. You know, if he may feel that if he makes a decision on something, he will get the blame for it. But if he just allows things to happen while he makes no decision, he can still say he was on both groups' side. You know, after all, you know, given all the rhetoric this year from Conservative MPs about the impossible things Brexit's going to bring, it's not like they can really argue for blinking now when they've just told everyone that they just have to hold tight and the EU will fold. And it may well be that we have to prepare for the worst Brexit chaos next year and wait for public opinion to become so aggressive in demanding a genuine engagement with the EU before they do anything at all. But then finally, interesting point. Now, this is plausible. And it was pointed out to me. I don't know whether it's true or not. Again, more off the record stuff. But it is plausible, and it certainly reinforces what I thought the EU might do. In fact, I believe earlier this year I may even called for them to do that. I can't know it's true. But being fair, I have just discussed reports in the Sun, so you know, what's the harm? So the report suggests that the EU knows full well that the UK cannot cope without a deal. So rather than pissing about with some pathetic whatever Boris Johnson may eventually agree to, they will just subsidise their own fishing industry and just wait 6 months into next year. Wait for the UK to come to its senses. Now, I may follow this one up in more detail if I see something tangible, but it does open up the possibility of 2020 having been the year when Boris Johnson tried to play chicken with the EU, for 2021 being the one where the EU show us how it's actually done. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. That's where we are at the moment. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.